Good evening and thanks very much for joining us. I'm Brittany Ramsey. We begin with some sad news tonight. There's been another COVID-19 death in the district. It's the 46th pandemic-related death overall and the 16th this month alone. The daily case count also rose above 30 today for the first time in 5 days. The health unit is reporting 33 new infections. 28 are in the Thunder Bay area. 3 come from First Nation communities and 2 others are from elsewhere in the district. 11 are due to close household contact. 8 are from close contact outside the home and 14 have unknown exposure sources. The total case count now sits at 2,719 and the number of active cases fell slightly once again to 283. Meanwhile, there's a new outbreak on the 6th floor of Hogarth Riverview Manor after one staff member tested positive for the virus. There are 32 COVID patients being treated at the regional hospital. That's 2 more than on Wednesday. 7 of those patients are in the ICU. Also, as expected, Medical Officer of Health Dr. Janet DeMille has confirmed that the district will stay in the gray lockdown zone, at least for now.
We are still fairly high above that threshold to go into red. So, but if we could continue to hold our own and the numbers continue to drop, then that might be something that we would be looking at for sure in the future.
According to the provincial framework, the threshold for entering into the red control level from orange includes a weekly incident rate above 40 per 100,000 people. Thunder Bay has 182 cases per 100,000 last week. Red also requires a positivity rate of 2.5%. Our positivity rate last week was 7.6%. The third wave of the pandemic appears to be taking a growing toll on the province as well. 2,380 new cases today, up from just over 1,500 yesterday. But healthcare officials say part of that jump is due to a data processing issue. Meanwhile, there's been strong support for the COVID-19 spending measures outlined in yesterday's new provincial budget. But the opposition is questioning why the Ford government didn't go even further. Colin DeMello reports.
Praise for Ontario's progressive Conservatives after the Ford government's 2021 budget that saw billions of dollars in spending to get through the pandemic's resurgence.
Ontario's hospitals are still in a state of emergency fighting this pandemic, and we're in the early stages of a third wave. What budget does is make sure that we have ongoing financial security and stability during this crisis.
Not only is the government spending $2 billion on hospitals for the pandemic, but small businesses will get up to $20,000 in grants for having to shut their doors.
This additional round of funding will help businesses stay afloat longer, but at the end of the day, there are no subsidies that are going to replace sales.
But the government is facing questions about whether it's prepared for the current surge and helping workers get through the third wave.
2,380 new cases being reported today. There is still a crisis upon us. The pandemic has not ended here in Ontario. The budget did not include paid sick days for those essential frontline heroes.
There is a program. There's a federal program. This program is working. 250,000 Ontarians have benefited from this program. There's over $700 million still available for that program, and every province in this country is benefiting from this program.
And the finance minister is also making a major long-term commitment as he tries to tackle a decade of deficit spending.
I think there is a way to do this without tax hikes. I don't think that's what people are looking for, and I'm not going to make cuts to spending because I think investing in people and their health is a good economic investment for the long term.
The finance minister says he is optimistic about the strength of the economy, even as the economy prepares for a third wave shock. At Queen's Park, Colin DeMello, CTV News.
Meanwhile, Northwestern Ontario's 3 opposition MPPs are offering some criticism of that budget. We spoke with Michael Gravel, Saul Mamakwa, and Judith Monteith-Farrell today for their thoughts on the plan. Catalina Gillies reports.
Amid the third wave of COVID-19, the Ontario government plans to focus on healthcare and the economy. Their first priority, vaccination. The PCs are set to spend an extra $1 billion on their vaccination strategy. Veteran Liberal MPP Michael Gravel says he has received a lot of angry calls about the slowness of the vaccine rollout and hopes the money allocated will make some progress.
Certainly, when you reference the $1 billion for the vaccine rollout, we certainly hope that helps make a real difference, particularly up here in our part of the province. The fact is, I do think that the province could have done a better job on this before the budget was announced. And if this money is being used to accelerate the rollout in the north, then that's good news. But again, I think an acknowledgement of that was crucial. And they did not acknowledge the reality of the situation here in Thunder Bay.
Gravel says he is also concerned about the lack of paid sick days for workers impacted by COVID-19. Kiiwetinoong NDP member Saul Mamakwa wants to see more done for Northern Ontario. He says the pandemic has exposed inequalities that exist for First Nation communities and says the budget will cause people to lose hope of getting through the pandemic.
Just when people need the help most, and the Ford government started with the cuts, and at a time when people need better long-term care, stronger hospitals, and more support in schools, I think, the government is squeezing those things that we need help on. We know that the pandemic is not over, and we know that from obviously the increased cases in Thunder Bay, but also in northern communities.
Fellow NDP member Judith Monteith-Farrell says she was pleased with some of the progress made for the economy. However, she still thinks there's work to be done.
I was happy to see some money for small businesses and for the tourist sector and the faith and cultural sector in the budget, because those were areas. But we've heard from small businesses that some of that money, they just can't get it. It's either coming late or they don't qualify. And I would have liked to have seen, even though I was happy to see that, I would like to have seen a commitment to those folks that fall between the cracks, that, have been hard hit.
The new budget plan will cause Ontario to see a decade of deficit. With more than $100 billion in new debt, it will take until at least 2029 for the government to reach a budget balance. Catalina Gillies, TVT News.
After it was revealed last week that the city of Thunder Bay is owed more than $4.3 million in back taxes since 2019, one city councillor wants to ensure the municipality is using every tool at its disposal to collect that money. Currently, property owners who are 2 years behind on their bill see their property registered for tax arrears. The owner then has 1 year to pay off the back taxes or enter into a payment agreement with the city. Otherwise, the property is sold at an auction. But Nebing's Cody Fraser, who's a lawyer by trade, believes the city has the legal authority to go even further and seize money directly from the property owner's bank account.
There's a emerging body of case law in the municipal law world that personal property can also mean cash in your bank account. So my intent behind the resolution will be to attempt to review our collection policy, and just to make sure that we're utilizing all the tools in our tool belt to collect.
He admits that would only be necessary in a very small number of cases where seized property is sold for less than the amount owing. According to Thunder Bay's finance department, about 90 to 95% of all tax arrears are paid before the property is put up for sale. Fraser plans to bring a motion to council later this spring calling for a review of Thunder Bay's tax arrears policy. Officials with Thunder Bay's Accessibility Advisory Committee and the local Chamber of Commerce say they're committed to working together to ensure that people with disabilities who can't wear a mask in public are properly accommodated by area businesses. The Accessibility Committee recently penned a letter to the Chamber after reports of people who are exempt from wearing a mask under the Reopening Ontario Act were turned away and told to shop online instead. Committee Chair Tessa Soderberg calls that a discriminatory practice, as websites aren't always accessible to the assistive technology the person might need when using a computer. Soderberg says rather than adhere to a strict online policy for those without a mask, business owners should instead deal with a customer's needs on a case-by-case basis.
Speak to the person and say, how can we assist you in a way that is going to meet both our needs? So that might involve talking to the person outside or social distancing.
It's a really difficult balance, but we definitely do respect the need to accommodate folks with accessibility issues. And we look forward to working with the Accessibility Committee to develop messaging that will help businesses to understand how they can address these issues and make sure that everyone is accommodated appropriately.
Soderberg notes it's important that everyone who can wear a mask in public does so that people who can't aren't lumped into those who simply choose not to follow the rules. The Accessibility Advisory Committee and the Chamber say they plan to meet to discuss this issue. Boulevard Lake will be back to full summer operations this year. The concrete work on the lake side of the Current River Dam has been completed, and now contractors will take a well-deserved break for the fish spawning season. Avery McRae has that story.
The contractors revitalizing the Boulevard Lake Dam have completed all Year 1 work and are well into work for Year 2. The Coffer Dam was taken out this past month, meaning all work in the water is complete just in time for spawning season. The Environment Ministry guidelines require no in-water work to be done between April 1st and June 21st to not affect the fish spawning season. Contractors will remain on site for the next week, and city project engineer Mike Vogrig says anything they can get done before April 1st will put them ahead.
Everything's basically just a bonus at that point. You know, we were just here, we had some of our city staff getting trained on manual operation of the gates that we've installed now. They'll be operating them over this kind of period of fish spawn time before the sites transfer back over to the contractor.
The completion of the in-water work means Boulevard Lake will be full once again this year, and recreation users can expect to see normal summer water levels in the coming months. And the re-adding of water won't affect the unfinished work on the dam.
That shouldn't really affect things too much. You know, we have the gates in place. We're able to control the water flows where the water goes. You know, the remaining work on the dam itself in terms of concrete is you know, kind of out of the water. It's away from the sluiceways where all the water's coming through. So that, you know, there's no issues there.
Crews still need to finish the new walkway over the dam, which will resume after June 21st, with all work expected to be completed by the end of October. Avery McRae, TBT News.
Upgrades are coming to the historic White Otter Castle thanks to funding from the upper levels of government. The 4-story building on White Otter Lake between Atikokan and Ignace has built single-handedly over a century ago. It sees thousands of visitors each year, and the group that oversees its maintenance hopes the work will prevent it from falling victim to Mother Nature. Corey Nordstrom has more.
The White Otter Castle, built by Jimmy McHewitt, was completed in 1915. The unique log home will soon be the recipient of some much-needed rehabilitation, thanks to funding announced by the federal and provincial governments. $180,000 is coming from FedNor, with $50,000 from the NOHFC and $2,000 from the Friends of the White Otter Castle. The project will include upgrades to signage and the nearby dock, but the lion's share is geared towards structural work.
There's 5 logs that need replacing in the castle, as well as replacing some handrails on porches, some selected window frames and door frames. Then we're going to be reapplying the synthetic chinking throughout the castle, which goes in between the logs. And then we're going to be doing an exterior treatment for the logs, which should hopefully last the lifetime.
Rehabilitation was last done to the historic building more than 25 years ago, and the Friends of the White Otter Castle hope these repairs can make it last for another generation.
Made it so that people can explore. There wasn't stairs up into the 2nd and 3rd floor, and as well as the tower, but that has been made in the 1994 restoration. So it's about time that the Friends have found funding.
The castle is certainly off the beaten path, only accessible through the water and air during the summer and by snowmobile in the winter. Hannon, who also works for Atikokan's Economic Development Commission, hopes that this funding can also lead to more visitors per year.
A lot of people use it as a destination, both winter and summer, whether that's sledding out there, boating, or canoeing and kayaking. It's definitely just an interesting place to travel to.
The restoration will take place in the summer, with much of the work being completed this year, though the promotional video and some other key areas will have to wait until 2022. Corey Nordstrom, TBT News.
The winners have been announced for this year's Respect Awards in Thunder Bay. The recipients were chosen for their efforts to exemplify respect in our community. Bay Village Coffee and its co-owners Alan Forbes and Gary Mack were recognized for providing a safe and inclusive place for everyone who comes in, and also for the business's efforts to give back through various fundraisers. The other Respect Award went to Teresa Bannon, a well-respected elder on the Fort William First Nation. She was recognized for being a leader who supports people in all stages of life and for sharing the sacred teachings far and wide.
I'd like to thank Claudia Lagarde for nominating me, and I'd really like to thank the City of Thunder Bay for the recognition they give you. It's really impressive, and thank you.
It feels really great to be recognized and to be nominated for this award, and then to actually win the award is just, it's mind-blowing.
We'd like to thank Diversity Thunder Bay and the City of Thunder Bay for this amazing award. We'd also like to thank all of our customers and everyone in Thunder Bay that has been so supportive of this, of our business and our initiatives.
The Respect Awards are a collaboration of the Crime Prevention Council, the Anti-Racism Committee, and Diversity Thunder Bay.
Wow, that's awesome.
Awesome.
You love Bay Village
I
Coffee
do.
too.
It's my favorite spot.
You frequent that establishment
I do.
very often. My Respect Award goes to Avery McRae because he's never in a bad